All right, thanks guys for being here. I'm Matt from Plexxi, and I really just have a couple of words before we get started. What we're going to talk to you today about is a new type of networking system that we've spent the last couple of years building. We think about it as a complete network system, so it's got hardware and software. There's a lot of talk about SDN. The way we think about SDN is it's a tool that we use to build a new type of network. So there are lots of architectural components in our solution that leverage the principles of SDN. And really what makes us excited about that is, a lot of us have been on the vendor side of networking for the last couple of decades. And we've always been kind of, had the challenge of what can we do with packets as they're flying by the wire, with the couple of microseconds we have and the embedded operating systems and the small amount of code space and stuff. There's only so much interesting things we can do on the wire. So what SDN does for us is it gives us a new way to think about that. It allows us to build a data model for the network. That data model can have full information about the network, about the hosts on the network, the services the network uses. And not only that, but it can build a relationship model, what we call affinities, of those things. And that data model can have lots of rich context, information about what these things that are using the network want the network to do for it. And all that can be done without the confines of embedded hardware, because we can leverage the power of software, we can leverage the power of compute to really do things that we really couldn't do before. For example, we can access telemetry data about the hosts that are using the network and use that to figure out what the conditions they're experiencing are on the network and use that information to make the network do something different. So these are all really cool things that we think SDN as an architectural principle lets us do. But ultimately what we're doing is delivering a new type of network. So what you're going to see today is we're going to describe the hardware that goes along with our solution. And I'd ask you to think about the whole picture, right? We're going to talk about hardware. It is a part of our solution. And we built our own hardware because as we looked at how we wanted to take this relational model and take this data model with all this rich context and make it useful, we wanted a network that would actually be able to manifest those things at the physical layer in their entirety. And what we looked at in the kind of existing network was that we couldn't really do that. We had to free the wires. So we came up with a way to do that, to free the wires and allow us to really leverage that rich context and make the network do things that it can't do today. And then you're going to hear about software. And the software is essentially the control layer that builds that model, that builds that relational information, that affinity that we talked about, and that really kind of captures the context of what the network needs from its end systems, from the hosts, from the services that are running on it. And then we'll show you how those things work together. We'll go into a lot more details. We do have one more Plexxi person here that's just recently joined us. He's going to give us kind of a quasi-independent perspective of what he saw in Plexxi before he got here, and we thought it would be an interesting perspective to share. So I want to introduce Derick Winkworth.
How's it going?
Hello, Toad.
Hello, Greg. How you doing? So I guess I work here now. And so I wanted to actually come up here and tell you guys, actually, I wasn't going to talk about why I came to Plexxi, but I will, because as we just said, I'm going to talk about. So,
Still on probationary period.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually ordering a cart of beer, which will be here in a minute, a giant cart of beer at full rate from the bar. So, but I'm not paying for that. You're paying for that. So I got really excited about technology at a really young age. And I think most everyone, certainly around here, right in front of me, and then out on the interwebs, did too. And I can remember the first time I was enormously geeked about something that made me want to be involved in technology, and that was a scene in Star Wars, the original Star Wars. And R2-D2 hacked into the Death Star's console. Everyone remember that scene?
Yeah.
They like plugged in, and then there was like this 3D wireframe map of the Death Star, and he navigated it, and he found out where the princess was being held, or whatever.
And that's exactly how computers work.
Yes. So my first memory of something really cool was a robot hacking into a spaceship, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get into computers. And that was like when I was 8. And you know, there's been lots of other things that have really inspired me, but you know, I actually got the lowdown on what Plexxi was doing, and I actually couldn't believe what I was hearing at the time it was being told to me. And it was Matt actually, right? He was sitting down and he was, you know, just talking about 10 minutes into a 30-minute conversation. He said something, I'm not gonna tell you what it is. I hope that you figure out what it is during the next few presentations, but he said something that made me completely blank out, right? And I'm just like sitting right in front of him and he's moving his mouth and sound is coming out, but my brain is exploding. I'm like, I can't believe that they solved that problem. It's a really fundamental problem in networking. And I think you're gonna hear about it, you will hear about it actually over the next 2 presentations. And I'll sum it up later at the end, but I want you to think about what that might be. What was the problem they actually solved that's fundamental to networking during this presentation? The thing that got me excited. I was actually gonna give the beer out as a prize, but then I started drinking and I was like, why would I do that? I'll just give everyone beer. So they're just gonna roll it in a cart. So there's no prize for guessing what it is, but I'll just tell you at the end. Everyone good with that?
Yep.
Where's
All
Ray?
Whoa.
That's an option.
Loaded and ready to go.
All right, so actually we have, who's first? Martin's first.
Yeah.
Martin, he's Dutch, so he wears clogs and lives in a windmill.